Welcome to We Question and Learn. Today, two very, very special guests. Debra Thompson. Debra Thompson is president of Strategy Solutions. And I'm going to let you do your resume. I was going to read this whole paragraph from your website, but you provide important services to the community. Could you just outline what your business does?
Well, Strategy Solutions offers organizational development, market research, strategic planning services to organizations and communities.
Sounds better. And Tom, not many people have their mission and vision statements so well stated. Thank you for that. And you've been doing this for how long now? Your company.
21 years.
Isn't that amazing? Plus, if you go to the Strategy Solutions website, you can see Deb's intense and wonderful resume relative to the services you've done in the community prior to starting your own company. So we're glad you're here. Thank you. Tom Tupitza. Tom, president since 2007 of the Knox Law Firm. And we were going to read your resume, but we broke the copy machine with all the different things that you've done in the community. Tom is well known. He is, in my recollection, is greatly involved in nonprofit partnership as affiliated with the Erie Community Foundation. And Tom, you run a very intense and very professional law firm. Is that correct?
Well, that's quite correct. Thank you for saying that. And we have a firm with offices now not only in Erie, which is really where we're based, but also in Northeast, in Jamestown, New York, and now in Pittsburgh. And so that allows us to serve clients in a large area. We are a full-service firm, but a lot of our practice does relate to nonprofit organizations. And, of course, as you've mentioned, I've served on a lot of them and also professionally work with them. I will correct you. I'm not really affiliated with the Community Foundation. Right now I'm quite active with the Chamber as chair, and we work very closely with the Community Foundation. And as everyone in the community, we're very grateful for the support that they provide. But and we, Tom, of course, serve together on the nonprofit partnership, which is funded by the foundation. Yes.
And Tom, as you said, you're the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership Chair. How long is that going to go on for?
Well, we'll see. We're in a very exciting time of transition now, as you probably know, and even in the media this morning, we have some coverage of the target strategic industry analysis that we've had done, and so now we're going to be doing a lot of exciting things in the community.
Other than that, the United Way Erie County Director on that board, Warner Theater Foundation for Erie's Public Schools. So you're well entrenched in the community. I want people to understand, you folks, your depth of knowledge and your experience with this community. Today, Deb and Tom, I was reading the bullet points you said, and everybody knows there are bullet points. I was just totally enthralled with this concept of collaboration among nonprofits. And this has been a big topic for how many years? Tom, you've been involved with the nonprofit partnership for a couple of decades, right?
Since it started, right.
Yeah,
right.
We go way back.
Yep.
Debbie, you were an initiator of that, or at least one of the first directors, weren't you?
I was an early director of what was then the Center for Nonprofit Services.
Yeah. So when I saw these topics, this is a very critical issue in our community, and that is, how do we get nonprofits to collaborate? Now, since that was your bullet point, what makes you? How do you feel about this? What's causing you to recommend that collaboration take place?
Well, sustainability is a big deal for all nonprofits, all organizations in general, and there are many nonprofit organizations in our community, as well as across the country, that struggle to make ends meet. They really don't have a sustainable business model. And one of the things that both Tom and I are licensed is in the Standards for Excellence, which is an ethics and accountability code for the nonprofit sector. Tom and I are both licensed consultants and trainers here in Pennsylvania for the standards. And the standards actually recommend that all nonprofits, because of the importance of collaboration to sustainability, that they have a policy that gives them some guidelines to.
How did this come about, the standards? Is that relatively new, Tom?
Well, that arose originally, I believe, from the Maryland Organization of Nonprofit Entities, and then the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofit Organizations, PANO, also became one of the many organizations that took on this cause, which I think is a very important one because it does give some coherence to the whole program of governance and compliance that nonprofit organizations need to be attentive to in the modern world. And sustainability, as Deb says, is certainly a key point of that. And sometimes we think of that just as organizations doing something to survive, but the idea is really to help organizations thrive. And in order to do that, not only do they have to use resources most wisely, but they need to be working with others, because the point is, we've covered it in these programs before, is mission fulfillment for the benefit of the community. It's not, all about a single organization. It's about how do the needs get met within the community.
Now, Deb, you've done a lot of research on Tom, I know you know a lot about collaboration from the nonprofit partnership, because you would take pictures in your mind and see opportunities for people to collaborate. Debbie, what's your thoughts about our community, and is there opportunity? Oh, that's a dumb question. Are there opportunities to collaborate? What's your feeling about that? How does this work?
There are tons of opportunities to collaborate, and I think there's many more than people are actively exploring right now today. Because in a lot of people's minds, they immediately think merger is collaboration. And it really isn't. There are a number of different kinds of models that people can collaborate, from working together on programs or products to joint operating agreements, to helping each other out with some part of their back office operations or some technical competency that an organization needs, all the way to full merger. But lots can be done for organizations and with organizations short of merger, where they could get the benefit of economies of scale and working together that more organizations should explore.
I can see folks collaborating in one geographic or one physical building, even somehow, to share technology, internet, copy machines, parking spaces, as you said.
Sure, we're doing that here.
Yeah. In Erie, has anyone explored this? Would there be a hub of some sort? Is that a thought?
I think it's been discussed over the years in different contexts. I mean, I think you see that to some extent now in the arts community. Not all of them are co-located, but Erie Arts and Culture and the Philharmonic are in the same building. That's and, right. I would want to emphasize, although real estate and parking and all that are certainly significant costs, there also can be sharing of human capital, and in the back office areas in particular. I don't know that we've seen a lot of this, but there's probably more going on than we would think in terms of, CFO kind of support that for an organization that wouldn't necessarily be able to hire someone full time, and other such services. And I think that's a natural progression, particularly if you're co-located.
Are there other ways that people can share costs? Would they share, staff?
Well,
that's human capital staff.
That's what I meant. Maybe I should have been a little bit
more plain
speaking about it.
I heard it, but I wanted to hear more about your thoughts on
Sure.
staff, because you're talking about staff that literally are like services.
Right. Well,
they're important, but they're services.
Absolutely. I think that in what I'm calling back office, I don't mean that in a negative sense, but I can see that in IT, in finances, in HR, and so forth, a lot of that transcends the specific service delivery. So I think that would probably be the first place to start for a lot of organizations.
I like your thoughts on HR. That's preaching to the choir at this table. HR in any industry, not only the nonprofit world, that's a very sensitive issue in the 21st century. A lot of things can happen. And to have a very professional HR person that could be shared along with a professional consultant is very important. So how would that work? Would that just be someone that's a professional that would do that? Or would that be on a consulting basis? Doesn't matter.
There's flexibility. You could have contracted, folks. You could have arrangements where someone's an employee of one organization and serves another. There was a concept, and I don't know that we've seen a lot of it in Erie, but the whole management service organization concept was sort of kind of the next step in that continuum on affiliation beyond just sort of working together on particular projects. But MSOs, the idea would be you would have an organization that could provide this whole measure of management services to a variety of nonprofits, and I think some parts of the country have had more.
And we actually have some local examples of that. One that I can think of is Journey Behavioral Health that Stairways joined as part of a collaborative across numerous organizations throughout Northwest Pennsylvania. They were able to consolidate some of their corporate back office operations and serve many organizations that still operate as their independent, the brands, okay, like Dickinson Behavioral Health in the Ridgeway area. Elk County is part of the Journey Behavioral Health Network, but they're still known as Dickinson, which is the name of,
So
which
you
is
can
their
maintain
brand
your
name in their
identity?
local community. You can maintain your brand and your image in the local community of your organization by collaborating. And we're encouraging more people to consider that kind of work because there are many examples of that in other places, and there are so many organizations here locally that could benefit from that.
You don't have to give up your identity or your space because IT can be virtual, and you as a human resource consultant could travel. Legally, Tom, you do this for a living. You don't move people to
Absolutely.
your office. You travel everywhere.
That's absolutely right. And, I do want to add here, and you'll probably get to this, but I certainly understand the fear about more formal kinds of collaboration, whether it's merger, which to some extent is rare. I mean, I think you'll find a situation more often where you have sort of a parent organization that will then kind of assume another organization, but it may still have its own board, certainly with reserved powers and with representation by the parent, but it's not always a complete loss of identity. And I think we would be doing a disservice if we didn't point out that there's some excellent examples locally, I think, of how more resources have come in the community. And I look at the healthcare sector in particular with, both hospitals, major hospitals affiliating with larger systems that have led to vast amounts of resources coming to the community, both for building up, new equipment, new structures, certainly new specialties, which we would not have been able to sustain locally, but, even high-level physician specialists able to essentially come into the community and not be here full time.
I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people with serious illnesses driving to Cleveland, driving to Pittsburgh. And I've heard a lot of that is being eliminated by the consolidation of the services.
So those are certainly a success story. And I mean, any organization goes into that with fear about loss of autonomy. But I think the nonprofit sector, again, it's all about mission and about serving people. And it's a little bit different than when some of these decisions are made in a for-profit thing where, you're more likely to see local, outposts maybe closed and so forth. That's very rare in my experience in the nonprofit sector.
Folks are not going to lose their jobs. That's the first thing. We live in a downsizing world. Industry and services have it's been a mainstay of those industries for years. That's not what you're supporting here.
No, and I think in the nonprofit sector, in many cases, we're facing recruitment challenges for staff. I think the opposite of that is more the case. It is especially over the next 10 years as more of the baby boomer generation retires. There's going to be more and more need for people with technical competencies to be able to staff different programs. So the idea of economies of scale and really helping to work together, you can actually, with the same amount of staff, actually do more mission, or expand to get more in order to, work on meeting your mission in the community. So I think that we have to start thinking about how the demographics are changing and not worry so much about, what's it going to mean to us personally, because the organization and the community benefit overall as a result of collaboration and working together.
And Debbie, maybe you can address this. I see boards changing. People are retiring. People are moving on. Sorry to say that term. But boards are changing. People are changing. There's a great need for education, not only on the organizational level, but on the board level. Or how do you get new board members? How do these board members, what are their responsibilities?
Right. Well, succession planning is certainly key at all levels of leadership within an organization, not just at the executive level. which I think can be a thoughtful part of this whole collaboration and sustainability program. And that's one way of easing into things, because all organizations are going to go through succession, and to do that in collaboration with others, I think is a good time to be looking at how greater efficiencies can be had without necessarily eliminating positions and so forth. But at the board level, you're right, there are many changes. We are, for very good reason, paying a lot more attention to diversity and inclusion at the board level, as well as in the delivery of services, and that's a challenge for organizations. I think as a community, and the nonprofit partnership has done some of this and wants to do more, the idea of making organizations and boards aware of the vast talent that we have in our community that we're sometimes not aware of people who have moved here, and because they don't know as many folk, they might not immediately come to mind when new board members with new skills are being sought. So I think we have to improve the ways in which we raise awareness of the talents that we have, because any board needs to have a complete spectrum of skills, and it's part of the job of any governance committee to look at the entire board and make sure that all different viewpoints are being represented, that skill sets are being brought to the table, because we can't afford in the modern world to have boards that aren't really carrying out their mission of leadership in conjunction with the staff.
Organizational and board education. There's a lot of compliance I see that's not being adhered to. I don't know how to say that. People are not playing by the rules, okay? And there are a lot of rules they're not aware of. Now, you can't always blame the board or a vice president or a president of an organization. That's like a college course, right?
It's sort of like a college course. And
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
CEOs that we recently worked with called the Standards for Excellence. It's like CEO school. That's what she called it. Because there isn't a manual anywhere, or really a college course that explains all of the nuances of the legal and technical aspects of best practices in management of nonprofits, except for the Standards for Excellence. So they are a wonderful guideline to be able to educate boards and educate staff, not only about the compliance aspects, but all about the legal requirements for any nonprofit, as well as management best practices. So they are like a Bible, or like that college course. And Tom and I, as I mentioned earlier, are both trained consultants in the standards, and Jackie Catcherbone and Jay Brenneman, who are on the Strategy Solutions staff, are also licensed consultants, trainers, and peer reviewers here in Pennsylvania.
That's important, Tom, right? You just don't hire someone to come in and do this. You have to have someone with credentials.
Right? I think that's correct, and we are fortunate. We have this program. All of us are familiar with all of the program offerings that the nonprofit partnership provides, and these aren't exclusive. In fact, Deb and I just did a Standards of Excellence program, which is an ongoing series that Strategy Solutions is doing. So I would say that we have, for our community, as is in the case with many other things in our community, we don't realize the resources and treasures that we have as compared to comparable communities. I think that the resources available to nonprofits here are amazing.
Absolutely.
For a community of our size, and really for any community in the country.
And so your staff has the credentialing to do this kind of training?
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah. And how prevalent is that across the state or the country? I'm sure there's people that do it, but I haven't heard much about this.
There are, and this is
Forgive me,
actually
I don't know.
not hearing much about it is not unusual.
That's what I mean.
At both the state level, and at the national level. Not enough has been done to promote the standards as best practices in nonprofit leadership and management. And that's being addressed both at the state level and at the national level as we speak. So there's not been a lot of advertisement around that. And in terms of the consulting availability in Pennsylvania, I want to say there's only about 25 people across the state.
The whole state?
Yes, that
well, how
are
many
licensed
nonprofits
consultants.
are just in Erie, Pennsylvania? I think I know minimally 375, maybe four. I heard 480 at once, but they were subsidiaries included. That's an outrageous number of nonprofits for a population of 280,000 people, and yet there's not that much education available.
Well, the
so to
education
speak.
the education is available, and
It is available.
There is available. It is available. It's that, there's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, though, related to the lack of awareness, because some people say that if there were more demand for it, we would offer more. But there isn't going to be demand until people are aware of it and recognize the importance of it. So, over the next year, I think we'll be seeing more advertisement, if you will, or more communications from PANO as well as from the national standards.
PANO is, please.
PANO is the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofit Organizations,
Yeah.
which is the licensed replication partner in Pennsylvania for the standards. The Standards Institute is affiliated.
PANO's a big deal.
It is for this particular,
Yeah.
certainly for this particular arena,
Yeah.
because they are the ones who have the education available related to the standards. So we will frequently be training and consulting on behalf of PANO, and we are, as licensed consultants, we're able to do that.
This gets complicated. So you're going to get inundated, I think. There's just people
Well,
who...
we wish we were.
Yeah.
I think the opposite.
Well, let's talk about due diligence, Tom.
Well,
You're a
this-
nonprofit. You can't just open your doors and beg for money. No offense, your cause may be good. There's nothing wrong with your cause, but you do have to be credentialed. Am I...
Well,
saying
it's
the right
interesting. It
things?
gets back to what you said a few moments ago, which is compliance is a big deal now. And, this, I think we saw it initially in the for-profit sector with, the Sarbanes-Oxley standards and all that. And some of those are directly applicable to nonprofits. But by and large, the industry stepped up and said, before we get regulated from the outside, we need to see what we can do internally. And
Folks,
so
pay attention to what he just said. That's critical.
And so this is where a lot of the, I think, the consciousness about the need for training has arisen, and it's a challenge not just for CEO, not just for board, but working together. I find that CEO board chair relationship is probably the most important one, and then it obviously bringing in the whole staff and the whole board is important, but they need to be working on the same page. And so the training you mentioned, how do we do this? I mean, a lot of it can be done in groups, and in fact, that's helpful because when organizations hear how other organizations have faced the same issues and you can have dialogue around that, I think everybody benefits. It may even spark, some conversations that would lead to more collaboration. So I think doing it in a group setting is a very efficient way of delivering the services, although there are needs sometimes for consultants to work individually with an organization on its own.
If you went out, Deb, and structured this, what would you do? Have a big seminar? Or how would
we
you
actually we are actually offering this series of programming through the nonprofit partnership on an ongoing basis as we speak. There are 6 guiding principles that are part of the standards, and each of those 6 guiding principles are being offered every other month through a training program at the nonprofit partnership. So we started this in 2018, and it was very popular and very well received. So we're doing it again in 2019. So every other month. We had one. Tom was actually a speaker with me just last week on the standards related to legal compliance and ethics, and we will come again in July to do the financial standards. So we started in January and then we do it in March. So every other month there is a program around some aspect of the standards. And if someone wants to get all 6 of them, you could start at any time. You don't have to start in January, but you can just
keep accumulating the 6.
Come every other month. It's the 3rd Wednesday of the month at the nonprofit partnership from 9 to 10:30.
Very good. Wonderful. I would humbly suggest that if someone's going to make a major gift, say you or I as individuals or an endowment or a trust, they're going to look at you and see if you understand that you are a good steward of the money you're going to get, right?
Absolutely.
Tom, that's your
right.
arena.
And I think part of what PANO is suggesting, they do have programs that are not just sort of general training, but organizations can go through a process of essentially being certified as being compliant with the standards. And I think that's a credential that would help an organization that's looking for funding, because some funders and foundations would be very impressed to see that they have gone through this program and are paying attention to it. Because it's, you mentioned HR, there's lots of other areas. I mean, the IRS is looking very carefully at this, so you've got the financial aspect. One timely example, and there'll be a session coming up on this, is the whole area of public advocacy and, what can nonprofits do and what can't they do when it comes to advocating for legislation that may benefit them, or even in the candidate area, which of course is a general rule, no endorsement of candidates. But my point is that this is an area that nonprofits need to pay very careful attention to. And it's not to suggest that they can't get into public advocacy. I mean, there are limits on what they can do, which is part of what the training involves, but they need to be very careful. So there are several areas that every nonprofit needs to be paying attention
We
to.
have to have you come back. You just opened up another 10 bullet
right,
points.
we could talk
Yeah.
for
But
a
I'd
long
like-
time about that.
I'd
But
like-
I think the point
yeah.
that I would like to make is
Yeah.
that the standards provide a really nice guideline and a checklist for you to learn about what you don't know about best practices in nonprofit ethics and accountability, as well as compliance.
Well, I hope
So
we didn't generate any
there's-
sweaty palms out there, but if someone was a little nervous about, and organizations are well-meaning and well-run in this community, but there's always a way to, how would they find out more information about this program that you're helping the community with?
Well, all they have to do is either call Strategy
Call
Solutions or
Tom.
Knox Law,
Yeah.
because either one of us, we're
okay,
actually,
yeah.
it is okay, and we're actually offering for those people who are a little bit nervous about whether or not they're following all the compliance rules, we're offering a very simple program of a checkup process for organizations that Strategy Solutions and Knox Law together will help folks go through a simple checklist of the various aspects of the standards, help them figure out what they're doing well, where they might need some additional help, and give them kind of a scorecard of where they're doing well and where they might need
Plus,
additional
you're in Tom's
support.
personal energy to make people aware of this. You're going to help somebody doing this, one way or the other.
Absolutely.
One
And
way or the other.
I also want to mention, as we talk about the wealth of resources we have locally, Nonprofit Day, which is held every year, I don't have the date at my
October.
fingertips.
October.
It's in October.
Yeah,
Is just a wonderful program, and I wonder if there's one that's as successful anywhere in the country in terms of bringing together a vast number of folks, and you've experienced it
Over
as well.
400 some people. It's run by the nonprofit partnership, supported by the community. I always see you folks there. It's an opportunity for even for-profits to show their wares, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Or folks like you who are offering your good time to help people become better nonprofits, which helps us all.
We certainly hope so.
And I think I keep forgetting, I say this too often, you got to think of the underserved, the medically distressed people. You're doing this for the community. You're doing it for the underserved. Everything you do.
Everything in nonprofits is about meeting the needs of the people in the community, and so that's what all this is about. And on this topic of sustainability, we will actually be doing a program at Nonprofit Day this year on it. So for those who are interested in the topic, that will be another opportunity to get it more in depth.
All you got to do is be a member of the nonprofit partnership, pay for lunch, and you'll gain more information than you'll ever imagine that lunch cost you. We could support that all day. It's an obvious visit. And thank you for visiting. Tom Tupitza from the Knox Law Firm, Debbie Thompson from Strategy Solutions. Thank you for taking your time and sitting at the round table today.
I'm Michelle Martin. These days it seems like just about everybody is choosing sides and doubling down on talking points. Here at NPR, we try to cut through the noise with meaningful and respectful discussions with people from all perspectives, backgrounds, and walks of life. Join the conversation every weekend on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Saturday and Sunday afternoons at 5 on WQLN Radio.
Hi, this is Jeff Hanley, host of Jazz Happening Now. Each week we listen to some of the latest jazz recordings, and I think you'll be thrilled by what today's jazz musicians are doing and saying. The recording industry has changed, but the music is as alive and as vibrant as ever. The future of jazz is happening right now, if you just listen. And please do.
Sunday night at 6 on WQLN Radio.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is your host, Tom Pysz. A special guest today from a very special place. Today, we have Jordan Steeves, the Director of Strategic Communication and Community Relations at the Chautauqua Institution. Welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
Glad you're here for the
Pleasure
second
to be
time.
here.
It certainly was great to have you. It's been about a year, hasn't it, since you visited the table?
I believe my boss Emily Morse was sitting across from you last year.
That's right.
So,
yeah. So you were somewhere in between there.
I'm pleased to be the designee this year.
And Jordan, you've been at the institution now almost 10 years, right?
Yes.
Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
that. As the Director of Strategic Communications and Community Relations, that sounds like there's duties as assigned underneath that topic.
It certainly can be that way. I often don't know what I'm going to be doing when I sit down at my desk any given morning.
But what's fascinating to me is that you were the editor prior to that of the Chautauqua Daily.
Yes.
That really christens you as to what the activities are at the institution. You're keeping track of everything.
It does. The Daily was actually my entry point to Chautauqua as an undergrad at St. Bonaventure University. I interned at the Daily and then eventually rose through the ranks to take over the newspaper. And it, just as you said, that's a great primer for entry into Chautauqua because you really get a sense for the breadth and depth of the programming.
Well, we'd like to talk about the schedule, and I'm sure there may be some other things that you'd like to interject, and we'd be grateful for that. Now, this is our July broadcast, so we've already missed almost 2 weeks of the institution's opening activities, and I, as of this broadcast, I'm sure things were marvelous. Right? Yeah. Incredible speaker series that goes back decades. Mm-hmm. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, we think of it at Chautauqua as our signature program, and we really are looking to build a brand as America's platform. We think we have that legacy and history, that heft of 145 years worth of lectures from a stage at Chautauqua by some of the biggest names of the day, but it's also interesting if you look at the data for our week-long visitors, which is our primary demographic now of folks who come for 1 week. They make their decisions based on the themes that we put out, usually a year or so ahead of time, on when they want to come to Chautauqua. Some come the same week every year. Some come certainly based on when their families are available, but a good number of folks who come to Chautauqua for a week every summer make their decision based on the topics that we put on that platform.
If people are missing the lectures, is there a mechanism?
There is.
For instance, I live in California, and I would like to hear last week's midweek lecture.
Absolutely.
Is it possible?
Yep. We're still working through our relationships with speakers. It can be a struggle sometimes, especially working with speakers bureaus, to secure permission from our platform guests. But any lecture that we have permission to share more widely, we do. We have a platform on our website called the Online Grounds. It's online.chq.org. And
Excellent.
On that resource, you will find as many of the lectures as we have permission to share from this season and from back to, I believe it's 1995, are posted on that.
You
website.
reposted old broadcasts, or forgive me, old recordings.
They're all there, so they're there for the taking. And one other initiative that's really taken off for us in the past several years is our live streaming initiative. So. Usually once or twice a week, we are able to broadcast live from the amphitheater at Chautauqua through our Facebook page, facebook.com/CHQ1874.
CHQ 1874.
That's correct.
Very good.
And
good title.
anyone from anywhere, and you don't even need a Facebook account, as long as you navigate to that page, can tune in to the lecture as it's happening at Chautauqua. And if you're so inclined, can actually participate in our famous Q&A session.
What's coming up?
What's coming
happening
up
over the summer?
Well, we've got 7 more weeks of
Yep.
just comprehensive, robust programming over the course of the next 7 weeks. We're about to enter a week in partnership with National Geographic, which has been an incredible partnership for us since 2008.
Is that a special week, or does that include the whole summer? Or?
It is. It's just a special week. They've been with us basically for almost every other season for the last 10, 11 years. National Geographic has. They've been an incredible partner for us. And this coming week is titled A Planet in Balance.
No, that would be the week of...
This is the week of July 7th through the 13th.
Okay, wow.
And
that's
so,
fantastic.
Yeah, and so
You
we
got
have
John just
a
in
number
time.
of really big-name National Geographic explorers coming in to talk about their work out in the world, trying to, make sure that we have a world for, the foreseeable future for future
Now, this program gets
generations.
out pretty far, so describe... Oh, well, let's talk about something important before we get too far.
Sure.
The amphitheater is brand
Yes.
new.
Yes, yeah.
I watched you guys put the last brick on it right before this last season, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've been using it since 2017, but there
2017.
certainly have been some kind of finishing pieces that have needed to take place over the
Well,
last
it
2
was
years.
scary because they were still leveling the concrete on the sidewalks when you opened. That was that winter. You built it over that winter
Yes.
before
A
the
9-week process, or 9-month process between
including the Oregon base teetering a little bit. which
that actually stood tall and firm for us. It was
good.
the structure itself that once it was disconnected from the organ became, it was a situation where it needed to come down faster than we had anticipated, but it expedited the process of building, which was a good boon for us as we.
Now, did you folks? Rumor is you had a continuously running photo series of the construction. Is that correct?
We had a webcam set up above the site that was actually 2 on either side. So one was looking at what we call the front of house, which is the big 4,400 seat bowl.
Yeah.
Watching that. Rise from what was a dirt pit, and then the back of house, which is a completely new building for us and increases our capacities immensely in terms of technology, of the facilities that our guests, our VIP guests are able to use, our storage, our offices for our staff are incredibly improved over the building that was back there before. About 2 weeks before we opened the 2017 season is when they were really putting the finishing touches on and putting seats and lights and things like that in place, and they turned on the lights and they'd have them on well into the evening. And this is before the season, but there's still activity happening, and it was just like we were all like flies to a light in the night, because it was just incredible how much it looked and felt like the old building, which of course we love. So
And what a
dearly.
relief it got done and in good stead.
Absolutely.
And the programming, of course, is important. And let's say you mentioned National Geographic for
Yes.
July, and that. Oh, I can't imagine what speakers you're going to have. But I didn't look. I should have.
No worries. We have an engineer, a National Geographic fellow who's an engineer named Corey Jaskalski, who will be speaking on the 8th. Steve Winter is a wildlife photographer on the 9th. And one lecture that I'm particularly excited about is on the 12th, on Friday. It's 2 of the foremost experts in plastics pollution. And so that's something that your listeners may be aware that in New York has been in the news because of the recent passing of a plastic bag ban.
Day passes, how does that work? Or weekly passes? Obviously, people that live there get to go to the lectures as part of the venue.
You can purchase access to the grounds in all kinds of lengths of time. You can come for a morning for just that 10:45 morning lecture. That'll be a few hours of a pass that'll gain you access through our gates and into the amphitheater. certainly, a day pass, an overnight pass. There's our week-long pass, and then some people are still coming for the entire season, which is a 9-week pass. We'd say, particularly for an Erie audience, if you're listening in the local region here, you're more likely to be a day tripper.
Yep.
So that's, you park across the street and enjoy a day on the grounds, and you've got pretty much everything that you
Worth
need
every
there.
penny. It's astounding to me just to be able to pay that fee and walk around and talk with the people. And you might run into President Michael Hill.
You may, yeah, you may. I as Tom and I were talking about before we sat down here, it's amazing. Certainly the names that you and the faces and performers and speakers you see on our stages are incredible. But it's really amazing who you might find yourself standing behind in line for ice cream, and
true.
strike up a conversation with people
or in the
from
gift shop or the library,
Absolutely.
or just waiting for a burger someplace. It's astounding. The ambiance is astounding, and the amphitheater is lovely.
Yeah.
There's better words than lovely. It's efficient as well.
And it's safe, and it's more comfortable than it used to be. But it retains, as you mentioned, the ambiance and the acoustics are. It takes a while to tune a building like that, especially one that's brand new. And I think we finally landed where we need to be on that front. And one other point I would make, Tom,
Sure.
For your listeners, is that the Sundays are still always free at Chautauqua. So it is a scaled back programming day for us as we kind of transition between two of our programming weeks, but there's still plenty to do on the grounds. You can visit the lakefront, bring a picnic lunch, walk around. There's performances in the amphitheater. I would mention that last week our Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra, which is celebrating its 90th anniversary season this year, actually played with school children from around Chautauqua County. It's a Carnegie Hall initiative called Link Up, and these students were working with some of our staff in the spring semester leading up to this performance on the 30th, and they brought their recorders to the amphitheater and played right along with the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra, which I think will be a memory that'll stick with them for life.
We're burning up time, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this visit that you afforded us. Tell us a little bit more about some of the highlights for the upcoming season in July and August.
I'll talk a little bit about our week 5 coming up is titled "The Life of the Spoken Word." We're really pleased for especially particularly for a PBS and NPR audience. Ira Glass is kicking off that week for us on Saturday.
Yeah, that's going to be
July
standing
20th.
room only.
I would hope so. He's not only one of the foremost storytellers of our time, but also I've seen him perform before, and he basically gives a show that feels and sounds like what you hear on the radio every week, which is he does it. He kind of mixes it in real time on an iPad on stage. So that'll be something else. So we're looking forward to that. And then the entire week after that is a week on radio listeners will appreciate this, the magic of the spoken word and this medium, particularly radio, podcasting, oratory, to convey ideas, thoughts, stories, and I think it's going to be an absolutely incredible week. And we begin it with a man named Trevor Cox, who's the author of a book called "Now You're Talking: Human Conversation from Neanderthals to Artificial Intelligence." So that really gives you kind of the foundation for the week, and it builds from there. Week 6, the week right after that, is one we're partnering with our neighbors at the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York.
Folks haven't been to that. It's something they should visit.
I agree. I think it
took forever. It's a week-long visit there. No offense to the institution.
I've spent 4 hours there and could have easily gone twice that, probably several more days.
Spend a day and you still can't read everything. So they're going to partner with you.
We are Yes, this is our second partnership in 3 years. The first one was before the center was open, and now they are open, and we are partnering on a week called "What's Funny," and so it's a real. it's a lighthearted week, but it's still taking a very serious look at the business of comedy and what is funny. Why do people find certain things funny, certain things not? Frank Oz will be here. People know him as Yoda or as a Muppet performer with Jim Henson.
Yeah.
But he has, it's been said that he may be responsible for providing more joy into people's households than any other living being. So, we are beyond privileged to have him. I would mention our week 8 is on a topic, shifting global power, which speaks for itself.
Yeah,
Robin
especially
Wright,
nowadays,
yes,
yeah.
and that's something.
Robin Wright.
Robin Wright, who is one of the foremost foreign affairs experts, will be here to kick off that week. And then we close with Wynton Marsalis and Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Oh, look out.
So we did this partnership 2 years ago, and we're just so thrilled to have them back.
That's wonderful. The history of the city of Erie and northwest Pennsylvania going all the way to Chautauqua, you have a lot of well-known folks that live here and live at Chautauqua. The connection between Erie, Pennsylvania and Chautauqua is intimate for decades, actually.
Absolutely.
For generations, as we were talking before. There's folks whose families have been there. Not all 145 years, but going back quite a bit.
Yeah, Erie is an incredibly important market for us in terms of ticket sales, but also it's an important relationship for us. We are.
I always got the
incredibly
feeling that
appreciative.
from Tom Becker to Michael that Erie was a partner.
Yep.
I always felt that.
I think that's absolutely how we feel.
And I think folks, we're preaching to some of the choir here who will visit. Now let's talk to some of the folks that have never been to Chautauqua. What's the ambiance like? I know it's a tough question because you're there every day, sometimes 18 hours a day.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
not living there. But if you had to PR this to a travel agent, how would you describe it from your point of view?
Sure. Well, and I've actually had this privilege of introducing people to Chautauqua for as long as I've worked there. But even recently, we've had visiting media who unfortunately aren't coming, weren't there during our primary season, but we're still just blown away by the ambience of the grounds, as you've said.
Yeah.
So you walk into a community that feels like you're walking back in time, but I always say this is not a place that is standing still in time. It's very much a place that is steeped in history, but is a thoroughly modern place, organization. So you will walk streets, very, very narrow streets with houses very close together, and get a sense of warmth from that. And then you'll visit our venues, which are most of our major venues are open air. So you get the sense of, being outdoors while also taking in an incredible lecture or a beautiful performance of some kind, whether it's a symphony performance or a dance or an opera, and then you can walk down the street, have get some ice cream, and then if you so choose, head across the street and play some golf. So
Absolutely,
our 4 pillars of programming are the arts, education, religion, and recreation. It's all there for the taking. If you have a ticket, most of that is available to you, or if you just want to relax and recharge and sort of challenge yourself and by attending a lecture.
And
That's
a view
that's
that
there
some
for you,
people
too.
travel hundreds of miles to see, and they don't have to. It's 45 minutes in my estimation.
Right.
And then that. Any plans? Now I noticed, and when I say plans, it seems like you kept the ambiance. A lot of new construction. In fact, some of the new construction, I had to go knock on the wall to see if it wasn't the original wood from something that was there 100 years ago. So you've kept the ambiance of the institution.
That's the idea. We have really tight restrictions on our architectural and land use regulations, as you'll find in a community like ours. We are in a national historic district with hundreds of contributing structures to that. So there's some pretty tight regulations. And one misnomer that I think people have about Chautauqua is we are often referred to as a Victorian village. There certainly are expressions of Victorian architecture at Chautauqua, but really what it is, our 220 acres of grounds are a collection of every major form of American architecture that's existed since the late 1800s.
And it's been studied.
And it's been studied, and you know,
I saw a person lift an entire 4-story home
Right.
up off the ground to preserve it, to put a new basement.
put a new basement and a foundation. Yep,
But
you'll
the
find that in
value
the
of
fall.
the value of that, just the ambiance of walking around. So some of the other don't let me interfere with your lecture description.
No worries. I think we've covered
Covered
a
them all.
lot of ground.
What? So after the lecture starts at what? 10:45.
10:45. Yep, and
goes till
there's a
noon?
morning devotional before that. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
if you
right.
want to partake, we have a weekly chaplain who will. We have a service at 9:15 in that same amphitheater, which then later serves as a lecture hall, and a guest chaplain from some of the biggest churches and all multi-denominational. In fact, we have our first rabbi who will serve as a chaplain for us this coming summer, and she is our opening week our opening week chaplain, Rabbi Sharon Bruce from ECAR in Southern California.
So every day at 9:15.
9:15, 10:15 is Big Church, as our
Yeah.
Vice President of Religion, Gene Robinson, calls it, on Sundays, which are free.
Yes.
So we invite the
A lot of
all
Erie
of our neighbors.
a lot of folks from Erie go
Absolutely.
to Chautauqua every Sunday.
It's an experience.
It's worth it.
It really is. So we're very excited about that. I mentioned the 90th anniversary of the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra. Our house orchestra, which assembles for 22 performances at Chautauqua every summer. Its members come from all over the world to come
That's
and play.
a lot of work for the musician.
It is.
And
yeah.
the conductor.
It
And
certainly
you.
is.
Yeah. 22 performances over.
Over a space of about 8 weeks. Yep.
It's a lot of work.
It's intense. They get maybe one rehearsal before they're on stage in front of thousands of people.
It's a true test
And
of skill, right?
They are. Yep. They're
What
great.
about performances? You've always been well known for your special performance.
Absolutely. So far this year, we've already had Judy Collins and Madeline Peyroux. They opened
know.
our summer on June 22nd with just a fantastic performance. Postmodern Jukebox was there the following Friday on the 28th. We just had Diana Ross.
I know.
So we're coming on the air just after that happened. It was sold out.
That was sold out
long in
months
advance.
ago.
So
it wasn't weeks ago. It was months ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually last on the 6th, on July 6th, Saturday, we did our third performance in this Harry Potter series, where the symphony plays the score underneath a 40-foot screen that plays the movie. And this one was The Prisoner of Azkaban. So that's all finished, unfortunately, but it gives you a sense of what's here the rest of the summer.
What energy you put into it.
For your listeners, Under the Street Lamp will be here on July 12th. That fantastic a cappella group. We have another performance of a movie where our orchestra will play the score underneath the screening. The 19th, that's Star Wars, the episode, what is now episode 4, but the original 1977 movie. So that's just thrilling. Bela Fleck and Abigail Washburn, two heroes of the bluegrass genre, folk genre, will be here on the 26th. And then the comedian Brian Reagan on August 9th. And, of course, as I mentioned, Wynton Marsalis and the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra will play multiple times over the course of their time here from August 19th through the 23rd. So lots doing.
Well, I'm flabbergasted a bit because I sort of understand all the work you go through. But talk about your staff, headed by your relatively new president, Michael Hill, a young, exuberant, very intelligent man. He's immense energy and wonderfully motivating.
Yes,
I'm
he wears us out sometimes.
Well, you have a young president with a lot of energy.
That's right.
How's this structured for the folks that are just tuning in? Is Michael and his staff and
Yeah, Michael oversees. We're governed by a 24-person board of governors or board of directors who 2.5 years ago hired Michael and have reappointed him every year since, and actually just signed him to a contract extension. So he's doing a good job in their eyes and in our eyes.
I looked up your board. Your folks are not just local folks. Nothing wrong with having local folks. That would be a huge benefit to the institution. But your board has no geographical limits. it astounds me.
Yeah, they're from all over.
Where they are from.
They're mostly Chautauquans who have been coming for sometimes for decades, sometimes for many generations of their family, and they do live all over the place. Of interest to Erie folks would be Candy Littell Maxwell, who is an Erie native, and now lives in Delaware, but she was elected as chair-elect of the board, so she will take over on October 1st. So there's a local connection for you there.
Yeah.
And then in terms of staffing, Michael oversees a year-round staff of about 100, 50 of whom are administrative, who are putting together this terrific program that we've been speaking about. And then the other 50 are the stewards and caretakers of our grounds and buildings and all of the infrastructure we have to maintain and to upkeep. And if you arrive on the grounds at any point this summer, you'll see the fruits of their labor. The grounds look absolutely magnificent and just keeps on improving. So.
Well, 200 acres is not easy.
No, and then you add in the 500 plus acres across the street of golf course and parking lots. So,
so you have 50 people doing all that work.
Yep.
Okay.
And on a year-round basis.
Yeah, on a year-round basis, and people are wandering in the winter months now. That threw me off a little.
Yeah,
it's been wonderful.
We have certainly we invite the local community in at any point in the year. It's a great place to be in the fall, in the winter, in the spring, and certainly, of course, the summer. One of our big initiatives recently has been to try to make better use of our on-ground space in what we have typically called our off-season. And so we have some farm-to-table opportunities, dinners, and weekends coming up this fall that folks might want to take a look at on our website at chq.org. We also have, for several years now, undertaken what we were calling our Winter Village, which is a couple weekends between Thanksgiving and New Year's, inviting folks to the grounds.
Has this been an initiative for you to extend the season?
It is. Yep.
I think I've heard Michael say a few times.
It was one of his.
Chautauqua is open 365 virtually.
It's one of his primary initiatives. First, as he walked in the door, the first day of his presidency, and since we've recently undergone a strategic planning process, that's one of the major points that came out of that, was that our grounds need to be in some form of operation for much more of the year than the 9 weeks it has historically been. So
for those folks who have not snuck
tuned.
on in the middle of winter, not that you're sneaking
No.
on, the ambiance before Christmas is just as wonderful to me.
It is.
As
It's
in
quiet.
the middle of the summer.
It's quiet, and certainly there's really no programming, and there's fewer places that are open. But come to the Chautauqua bookstore, look around. It's a great gift shop and bookstore. It's a great place to get gifts before Christmas.
We have about a minute left. I'm gonna hopefully you can tell us how to find you, how to get tickets. Tickets are probably all.
Tickets are still available, especially for the single tickets for all of those shows that I mentioned earlier are still available at chq.org or chqtickets.com. And I'd encourage anyone listening to, even if it's just for a morning or an evening, come and join us at Chautauqua.
I know you invite groups because
we do.
WQLN loads up a couple of buses.
We are so thankful for that.
No, we're grateful that you have seats for us because you get sold out pretty quick.
We do, yeah.
And I think people thoroughly enjoy just coming on for the evening even.
Absolutely.
Enjoying that.
It's it's an amazing place to see a show, but if you can stay longer, we hope you do, because you really will get a sense of the rhythm of the place.
chq.org.
That's correct.
And it will take a long time to go through the website, and I'm not dissing you for that. I'm just saying
there's a lot
there. How
there.
much information. And, well, Jordan, we've run out of time. We're grateful to Jordan Steeves, the Director of Strategic Communication and Community Relations at the Chautauqua Institution. We're very proud of you. We're impressed with what you do. It's a world-class place to visit.
Thank you, Tom.
They would... and you don't have to spend $1,000 on an airplane ticket. And
right.
You'll have some of the
it's right
best,
in your backyard here.
You'll have some of the best mental stimulation and entertainment and education you'll ever find.
Thank
you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.